and we started college in 2007, the fall of
Mm-hmm.
2007, and that's when we met.
Yes.
Wow, it's been a really
Um,
long time, but I'm so happy to have you on Conversations with the Pros. I've been following you and your career for several years already. I definitely want to pick your brain about it, but I also want
yes.
to just dive back in time and talk a little bit about your experience as a college dance major, because it's not really a topic I've spoken a lot about on Conversations with the Pros, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that it can be very helpful for dancers to hear. I didn't finish my BFA as a dance major, so for everyone
Mm-hmm.
listening, in a nutshell, and we can talk a little bit about this, Hannah, but in a nutshell, I fell into disordered eating habits when I was a dance major, the first 2 years, freshman and sophomore, and really needed to take myself out of the situation. It's what I knew would be best in order to move forward as a dancer. So I didn't actually get my BFA. I ended up switching, and that's when I started clinical nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
But Hannah, you did graduate with your BFA, right?
Yeah, I did. Yes.
So talk to us about, your journey as a dance major.
My name's Hana Delong. I am a dancer with Dallas Black Dance Theater here in Dallas, Texas. Um, and yeah, I mean, I started dancing in high school and tried to, push myself to, catch up with my peers and decided I wanted to do this for a living. So I went to Adelphi University to get my bachelor's in fine arts in dance. And yeah, here I am.
Yes,
I'm
and that's where we met. So Hannah,
yes.
talk to me a little bit about, that experience being a dance major from start to finish, because I can only talk about my experience starting as a dance major. I want to hear really about the full course, freshman to senior.
Um, well, Delphi's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
You do ballet modern every day. Get to do rep, which is great. We have two main shows throughout the year, and then they would hire maybe one or two outside choreographers to come and set rep on the company, and then you would audition for those pieces, which is also helpful to help build you for your professional career on the outside world. And yeah, I mean, it was a pretty good program with keeping you, I would say, you got to, dabble in different forms of dance versus having to maybe have a concentration. They don't have a concentration in their program. So everybody takes ballet 5 days a week. You take modern 5 days a week, and then you get to do rep and then like maybe point and things like that are added on. But yeah, so through those 4 years, it was really me navigating, figuring out what I really wanted to do, who I was as a dancer, what style of dance I really wanted to maybe focus on or hone in on. And I'll admit, when I graduated, I was panicked. I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. What am I gonna make? Like, what am I even ready? So
Yeah.
the 4 years were definitely eye opening, but also like, a little me realizing that me as a dancer, maybe there were certain things that I didn't focus enough on, or I didn't necessarily feel like I received enough from the organization to maybe help me feel like I was ready to really step forward and consider myself a professional dancer, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely. I always found one thing that was super helpful for me was just coming from high school into college. You are definitely thrown into an environment that's encouraging a lot of versatility as a dancer.
Mm-hmm.
So I know for me that helped a lot because I had come from just such a strict ballet background. So for me to now be introduced to modern, to experience new rep
Mm-hmm.
every semester essentially was incredibly helpful.
Oh
Even
yeah.
yeah, especially when making that step after obviously dancing in college. And I agree. I think there are pros and cons to probably any college dance program in regard
Mm-hmm.
to maybe at that last year really starting to assess, where do I want this career to take me and whether or not those tools are provided. I think any dancer is going to experience either like a ton of support or maybe limitations in certain areas. I had a great experience. Going to college as a dance major was extremely helpful. It really helped to not only just promote that versatility in dance, but to really
Hmm.
act as a great bridge from that high school level to and then going into the professional world.
For me, coming into dance in general, it's always kind of been me figuring it out, you
Yeah.
know, and I think that's, well, I mean, that's kind of what helps you as an adult. I mean, we're all out here just
Yeah.
still trying to figure it out. And so I think being thrown in, I was also, you know, I'm from Florida originally, so moving to another state was also a thing. And I really wanted to go to New York because I wanted to be around, you know, the dance capital of the world. I wanted to be around other dancers, trying to do the same thing that I'm trying to do. But no, yeah, definitely, it's hard for college programs, and I think the more we can help students, especially younger and in high school, give them advice and help guide them, you know, not to tell them what to do, but you kind of help them, like, you know, I didn't know this when I was your age, so how can, like, you know, what can I help you with, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it really is why I love doing these conversations. So, when you made that jump from senior year into post college, getting into the professional world, obviously it was really scary. What would you say some of the biggest challenges were that you experienced that first year out of college?
Well, I think it was more so like I think my biggest thing was kind of like what I said earlier about just figuring out who I was as a dancer. Am I just gonna go and audition for anything, or do I actually have specific forms of dance that I enjoy more than others? Are there specific companies that I want to dance for? So like really figuring out who I was as an individual, how I was as a mover.
Yeah.
Um, and so I ended up like training at the Ailey School because I felt like I just needed a little bit more guidance. I didn't feel mentally ready, and I felt like I needed to kind of see where other people were at. You know, the thing about a BFA program, a lot of times, unless you're out there really taking classes or auditioning places, you don't really get to see, you're with the same people, you know. You get to see the new class come in, you get to see, you know, how your peers are dancing, but you don't necessarily always get to see all the different types of people out there who may not have gotten, may not have received the same training that you did. So I did that because this, I was able to see, I was like, okay, this is going to help me. I'll get to be in like the city, I'll get to see what's going on, and then I'll know about more about auditions and try and put myself out there. So that's what I started to do. I literally just started to just kind of hustle. I did some train, you know, I would train with them in the day, during the day, and I would audition whenever I could. I did a season of dancing in the NBA
Oh,
because I
cool.
wanted to do something.
Cool.
Yeah, so my first year out, I danced for the Nets. It was also an experience, you know, me trying to figure out what I liked. You know, I realized it wasn't something that I, you know, it wasn't for me.
Totally.
But it was, you know, cool to see, okay, you know, this is another form of dance, commercial dance, something that I may have thought I wanted to do before, but now experiencing, realizing maybe it's not really what I'm into. Um, but yeah, I got to do Broadway auditions, company auditions, and I like that because I really got to see, okay, this is what a cattle call is. This is what they're talking about when there's hundreds of girls in one room together, hundreds of people in one room together. And so, yeah, I was
Yeah.
just really just dipping my toes in all different types of water to try and find myself.
Absolutely. And it feels like one major word that I'm sure you would have had to have related to would be patience because you really put yourself in so many different situations in order to figure out, as you said, to help mold your own self and find out what would click with you. And I think it's awesome to hear that you were so open to all of these different ideas from commercial dance to Broadway, really broadening your perspectives. And as I said, like utilizing these even just auditions as opportunities to just through the years mold what you
Hmm.
wanted to be as a dancer. And I think that must have taken a ton of patience.
Oh, yeah. To not give up, to feel like, you know, because dance can be one of those fields where you feel like, I feel like, I wouldn't say it's a misconception, but it's like a lot of people feel like once you get to a certain age, that's it for you. You know, that's your time to retire. So I didn't want to get to the point where I felt like if I don't get something by now, then I'm, you know, there's no hope for me. I'm only going to be able to have a career for 5 years or however long, just because people think that by 40, that's it, or by 35, that's it, you know? So,
Right.
yeah, I wanted to open myself
Absolutely.
up to give myself at least a chance. So,
So were you down in Texas when COVID hit, or were you in New York
yes.
still?
No, I was in Texas. So, I've been with Dallas Black Dance Theater for, I'm going into my 8th season now. So I've been in Texas now for 8 years.
Wow.
Um, and so, yeah, COVID was definitely a scary time, especially in the arts, just trying to be like, figure out, so what's the plan here? You know, or not like not necessarily a necessity. So how do we keep going? So
It was scary for sure.
yeah.
So then fast forward a little bit more when you made the leap to head to Texas. Talk about that. That's another huge jump.
Yes. Well, I think I had gotten to a point where I was like, after I graduated, I was like, I've been out here for 3 years now, 3 additional years. How to like, what's the plan? I really do want to let me solidify this. And a friend of mine had told me about auditions for Dallas Black Dance. Um, he said, but they're in Texas. And I'm like, well, you know what? There are auditions back then. We don't have auditions at that time anymore, but back then it was auditions would be in July. So
Sure.
they're kind of like the last concert dance audition
Sure.
of the year of the season before a season would start.
Right.
So I was like, I gotta get this job. If I don't, then because that season I didn't really audition a lot because I was focused. I had an opportunity to apprentice for a company, and so I was really focused on that. But I was like, no, I need to get a job. I can't put all my eggs in one basket.
Mhm.
Um, and so my friend was like, I'm going to Texas. I had never been to Texas before, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go with you, and
Wow.
booked a flight. Came to Dallas for the first time and auditioned, got offered a second company position, and I was
Awesome.
like, I took it, and I was like, let me just take this leap of faith. And within, I think I had to be here in a month.
Wow.
Yeah. So I remember just telling my roommate in Brooklyn, like, hey, so are you renewing the lease? Because I'm actually leaving. Um, so yeah, so I was like, I guess I'm out of here. So
Yep.
I I think I was just like, I can't allow myself to be afraid. I'm like, this is what you want to do, and you'll never know if this is something that you truly want to actually go for it. I would just go for it, see how it goes. If you absolutely hate it, you know, maybe talk to your parents, and then you know, but I'm like, just go for it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think really awesome to hear. You know, just fear is obviously one of the biggest, if not the biggest, obstacles that will
Mhm.
prevent a dancer from making a huge move like that for either their
Mhm.
career, maybe on even a lesser, for a younger dancer, right? Changing a studio, something as what
Oh
can
yeah.
feel as small as changing the studio that you go to. I work with a lot of dancers who will be at a studio that is not actually promoting like healthy habits for them. And we talk about the idea of changing environments. This is a very scary idea for a lot of dancers, especially because we are often, you know, so much of our training lies in this very in this framework, right? And
Mhm.
we thrive with repetition and safety
Oh
and
yeah.
comfort. And really challenging that is a huge step. So to hear that you were able to do that, kind of just push yourself through, see what happens. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work out. Maybe you were moved back to New York, whatever it might be. But the fact that you gave yourself that opportunity was really incredible.
Yeah. I don't regret it. Like, look,
Eight
hey,
years
let's explore
later,
things we
yeah.
need to. Right.
So, COVID, how were you able to kind of navigate through, especially with dancing? Did you set up shop at home? How are the logistics of that for you?
Yeah, so at first, we were off because I guess everybody was, still trying to figure out what was happening, what's the game plan, and are we all shut down? Once we kind of like, okay, well, this is gonna be like this for some time, but we can't stop. So I think we shut down maybe officially March. Like we went away for spring break and never came back. So um we got that week off. We had a show that weekend that the theater was like, hey, they're really talking about things are shutting down, so we think we have to cancel the show. And so that's when I started to realize, I'm like, oh, this is serious. So we kind of just sat at home for maybe like a week or two, and then eventually, like my boss was like, okay, we got to keep up because we don't know when it's gonna start back up again. So we did virtual classes.
Mm-hmm.
So every morning we kept like a normal schedule. Every morning at 10 a.m. First, we just did class. We may not have had rehearsal, but we like at least stay active. So we would have
Yeah.
class at 10 o'clock in the morning. Um, I at the time was helping with our social media a little bit at that time too. So then after class, I would help with that,
Nice.
and then just stay up to date. We'd have every Wednesday, we'd have a company meeting to talk about what's going on, what's happening with the virus, how soon are we thinking we can start back again, etc. Luckily, we have a summer program for we have two programs. We have a summer enrichment, we have a summer intensive. Our summer enrichment's for like kids like 7 to, let's say, 16 years old.
Sure.
And so they still want us to do that. We still had a lot of families that were still willing to do virtual. So luckily I got to go in and teach kids over a computer, but I was still able to, continue to work through the
Yeah.
pandemic, which was great. So I got to teach kids, and then we decided in August that we were gonna, go back to normal. We just did a complete virtual season, which was
Mm.
also different, not performing in front of audiences, but actually we did, not to say like a music video, but basically,
Awesome.
full length dances turned into virtual performances, and
Yeah.
rather than just videotaping ourselves on a stage, we which I thought was so cool, was that we whatever piece we did, we kind of made it more realistic, like how if a piece was about somebody, I don't know, mowing the lawn, we were gonna actually go to a lawn and shoot it on there. Like we just made
Yes.
sure that.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool.
That is.
And I think it was really well, because then people who had never seen me dance before were able to see me dance now, because like, they can't fly to Texas, or maybe I didn't go to their city on tour. So now they had the opportunity to see us virtually.
Yeah, that really is awesome. To
Yeah.
switch gears a little bit before we sign,
Yeah.
I do want to ask you about your ability to really just fuel your body throughout the day in regards to
Yeah.
how you balance that with your schedule. You know what I mean? Between
No,
balance
for sure.
classes, your rehearsals, work schedule, where do meals and snacks come in for you? How do you prioritize that with your day?
Well, luckily, so we're at least blessed to, so we usually start around 10 a.m. So we're supposed to be at work about 9:45. So I wake up at about 7
Sure.
to ensure that I can get, my coffee in, and, whatever breakfast I decide for that morning. And then we get an hour lunch break,
Mm,
which is great because it gives us an opportunity, to actually finally just, once 1:15 hits, you can take a pause. I think it helps, decompress, but also gives you the opportunity to actually have enough time to get food in your body
mhm.
and to digest it before you have to go right back into, um, another. We go back from 1:15 to 2:15 is lunch, and then we have another 2 hours and 45 minutes of just straight dancing. So I think it's helpful because I do know a lot of dance companies kind of just get fives every hour, which is great. It's nice to have a break, but
Yeah.
I think it's great that we get to have a lunch break where we actually can sit down for a period of time, eat, talk a little bit, and then then go back into it again.
Yeah.
And then when I get home, I'm ravenous. Like I'm just like, it's, it's a technically like a 7-hour day. So like when I get home, the first thing I'm typically always really planning my dinner
Yeah.
at breakfast time. So but yes, we do get I think an ample, great opportunities to actually be able to fuel our body. We also we have company class. So we also get to, so we have class from 10 a.m. to 11:30. We do get a 15-minute break in between as well before we start rehearsing, which also is another time sometimes where I'm like, I got to run to 7-Eleven real quick because I have to get a snack or.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I think that's awesome. First of all, I
hmm
love that you do have these times in your day that are really planned
hmm
from your company. So I give them so much credit, honestly, because not all environments are like that. And I think
oh,
it sets the stage for what dancers do need and what companies should and can be implementing in regards to a lunch break, like a sufficient lunch break,
hmm
without needing to pull dancers, for whatever reasons, like have that be an official lunch break. And then, of course, even those 15-minute gaps if or when you need a snack, listening to your body, which is, I'm hearing a lot. And then also just utilizing the tool of planning ahead, not doing
yeah,
it obsessively, but just thinking, hey, what do I
yeah.
have for dinner? What can I do? Knowing that you need that recovery meal. So that's awesome,
hmm
Hannah. So happy to hear that.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's great because I've been in situations where we've only had, and then I find myself, eating, smaller meals than I probably really needed.
Sure.
So I like the chance to be able to have that break to know, like, over time I've learned what my body needs,
Yes.
which is great. So that I know, okay, this is the kind of thing I feel like I can have right now before I have to go back and maybe run a show or run a piece that's maybe 30 minutes. It helps for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I totally agree. And one recurring theme that I hear on all of these conversations is that it just takes time for an individual dancer to figure out what works for them
Yeah.
in regard to
hmm
foods work, how you're eating, whether it's like that meal or that snack after performance or before performance. So
Oh yeah.
goes back to that idea of patience and really having patience with yourself as you figure it out along the way.
Oh yeah. And uh luckily, like when we go on tour, we get hospitality, which is great from whatever venue we go to, and they typically will provide us with lunch or dinner depending on what time we're there. And I think that's also helpful because it also lets me know that I don't necessarily have to feel like I have to figure out
Yeah.
where I'm gonna get food from or what am I gonna eat. Like someone is literally giving me a plethora of options, and they're really good about allergies or um, food limitations. Whether you're gluten free or you don't eat meat, like they're really good about providing everything that somebody needs. And so I think that's been really helpful, especially these last few years. They've really been focusing on that, which has been great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I hope
hmm
other directors or anyone listening to this chat now will take that into consideration. So my final question that I ask all the dancers on here is how would you define what it means to be the healthy dancer?
I think uh, listening to your body. Like you said about learning, it does take time to learn what you need, especially in this field. Not every dance is gonna require as much energy as other dances do, but also remembering that food does fuel you. So if you want to help with stamina, to help get you through the rest of the day, it's something that you need to sustain you throughout the day. And so just yeah, making the right choices for yourself. And I think that's been the best, really and truly the thing that's helped me the most throughout my entire career.
Yeah,
Yeah, trying to do what works best for me.
absolutely.
Not no one else's choices are necessarily going to work for you, but.
Absolutely. Really prioritizing the quality of food
hmm
and the individuality of what works for you. I think that's awesome to hear. And I think that's
hmm
information that is so helpful, especially for my younger dancers. I want them
Yeah,
to hear this. They're not looking at what a dancer eats in a day type of pose and thinking
yeah.
that they need to match
Just
exactly
talking about
this.
that today.
Doesn't work like that.
Yeah. We actually all the dancers we actually had a conversation about that today in the lunchroom actually.
Yeah.
Watching those videos can be, I don't think it's not necessarily it's going to work for you, so
Exactly. Hannah, thank you so much for joining me. It's truly such a pleasure to reconnect with you after all of these years,
Yeah, I
and
know.
be in touch.
Yes, for sure.